What's going on, everybody? My name is Cleve.
I'm Bronson.
And this week, this is our reaction episode. So we're going to be reacting to ACC games that happened this past week, how our spread picks went, some national games of interest, and the elephant in the room, the Clemson Tigers. So let's just go ahead. We will jump on in to the ACC games. Just before we go through all of them, are there any games in particular you want to hit on first?
For the ACC.
Yeah.
Um, really, I guess I could say that TCU, SMU. Um, you know, well, I had uh, I had thought that TCU would win that game. SMU, something's lacking this year. I think they got some injuries or something too. I don't know what's going on. Of course, they got players
Defensive
in that.
suspect.
They got a few players in the NFL, but yeah, they're not as good as they were last year for sure.
Cool, cool. Um, I think probably the biggest, well, second biggest surprise coming out of the ACC this week, and that's San Diego State in California.
That
That
yeah.
was a crazy game. We both picked, I know, California to win that game, and I think we both thought they would win that decently comfortably. But that game ended up being 34 to nothing, San Diego State. It was just California got outmatched and outclassed. I mean, it wasn't even a competition most of the game.
And I was in San Diego during that time. I
That's
think
your
it's
fault.
pretty wild. Boy, what a difference it is, Prairieville, Louisiana versus San Diego. Man, it's I love that place. Let's see. You got anything else to speak about that? Man, I did.
Nothing on that one though.
I did. I thought Cal was going to win it. When I'd seen what San Diego done before then, it didn't look like they stood a chance. But you know, that's a big deal out there to them, San Diego State. Then they just get into the Pac-12. Aren't they in the Pac-12?
I think so. I think they're one of the teams slated to be in it.
I haven't. Yeah. So they've always felt like the little school, with Cal and all them being the Pac-12 before. So they're always up for games like that and now Cal being Big Ten. So no, ACC. God, ACC. Yeah. I said,
It's still weird to say even now.
I know.
All right, next up. So let's just go ahead and we will hit these in order, except for one, Clemson Syracuse, which we're going to talk about for the majority of this video. Miami and Florida. This was one of my spread games. I felt like that line was very low for what Florida and Miami have done on the field, both respectively this year. Miami looks like a top three, maybe even top two team, which we'll get into that for another episode. But Miami looks the part, and Florida has not. So that was just and that was a good game on Miami's part. There's a big rivalry game, so emotions are high. It kind of skews some things, but they came out. They showed amazing toughness. I mean, like real toughness from Miami. And they came out and they handled business.
They just ran the ball down their throat. That was a beautiful thing to watch. It really was. I watched that, actually saw it, and I I can respect that. Offense and defensive line, and of course, Cristobal was known for that. He just, had trouble getting the right fit in other areas, and they do kind of stupid things. But I think they're getting it together. So, yeah, they looked really, really good.
They looked exceptional.
Yeah,
Next up, the other ACC team who's kind of running away with the league as of right now. Florida State beat Can't Read, Can't Write, Kent State, so we're not going to talk about that one too much. That was 66 to 10. What's expected of them. Next up, we have Temple at Georgia Tech. Again, this was Temple. Temple showed some flashes of some good things, but overall, Georgia Tech is not even in the same league with them.
I,
Georgia Tech comes out on top, 45 to 21 or 45 to 24. Excuse me.
Tech is trying to look like a team that's good,
Yeah.
that can handle people coming at them. I really like that.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, they definitely responded really well coming off that Clemson win from 2 weeks ago. Next up, this was an interesting game for us to pick, and it shouldn't have been interesting, but it was Wofford at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech won this game 38-6, but there's so much kind of uncertainty around that program right now. you kind of don't know what to expect, even with a team like Wofford. But they did handle the business like they should, and they won that, by 32 points.
Yeah, nothing to say.
Next up, Louisville and Bowling Green. This really not much to say on this one. Louisville won this one 40-17. It's just like, again, for a lot of the games this week in the ACC, just handling business like you should. Next up, this was an interesting pick for us because we actually picked differently on this past week, and that's UCF and North Carolina. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
UCF, they handled business and then some. They beat North Carolina 34-9 in
I
Central Florida.
favorite football coach. I did. Belichick. He's Patriots. He's a big Patriots guy. He used to tell me how great Belichick is and all that stuff. And so he had convinced me that Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. And so I went with, I know Carolina, he's figuring it out. And maybe it was Tom Brady the whole time. Like I said a while back. No,
Let me say this. Let me say this. I
yeah,
do believe there was a point in time he was a lot better than he is now. I
right.
think everything he's doing now is just from probably 2022 on. He's just tarnishing what
Losing
he's done.
Tom Brady before Tom Brady and after Tom Brady. Losing record as a coach. And I should have gone with that. And I kind of kicking myself. I don't know why I did that. So yeah.
That was a rough one. All right, now on to my least favorite team in the ACC. This used to be another team. This used to be NC State, but this team just took the crown, and that's the stupid Duke Blue Devils, man, beating NC State 45-33. Listen. Every time I have picked a game that Duke is involved in, whether it is spread or it is just straight up picking them, I have gotten it wrong. All right. I know it's only been, three games we've been picking, but two of those have been spreads. I've picked them to cover and I've picked them to lose both times in those spreads. And I picked NC State plus 2.5. All right, to beat Duke. And guess what? Duke pulls it out of their butt somehow, beats them 45 to what, 33? Hold on. I
Yeah,
want to make sure. 45-33.
it was that. I picked Duke, but I was even surprised because the day before we actually videoed this, I had already picked Duke, and then I looked at it when I was about to tell you what I picked. I'm like, wait a minute, I picked Duke. Why did I pick Duke? And then I thought, stick with it. I just stick with it because it's always been NC State's had a rough time at Duke, and Duke finally put it together. Didn't make a lot of mistakes. So yeah, it's a good Duke team if they don't make the mistakes. They're a pretty tough team, but they hadn't shown that up till then. So
I
yeah,
secretly think Manny Diaz is just watching these videos from these two poor, stupid people from Louisiana and South Carolina. And it's like, I want to make this 17-year-old's life absolutely hell when it comes to picking football games. And mark my words, unless they are playing a group of 6 school or an FCS school, I don't care how good the matchup looks. I'm not picking. I will not be pulling for Duke. It's fade Duke the rest of the year. All right, they're done. I'm sick of them. All right,
I,
before I go too long onto that, let's move on. It's the last game, and that's Stanford at Virginia. Virginia beat Stanford 48-20. This was kind of expected. Virginia's been looking really good. I think they're definitely in the upper half of the ACC. They're doing some good things. Tony Elliott's finally starting to put it together up there, so it's going to be fun to watch.
that surprised me, but it surprised me because I went with the score with BC at Stanford, and I was right about Stanford trying to run the ball and things. But the problem is I didn't really look into that last game like I should have. I think Stanford had gotten 3 touchdowns off of turnovers that BC had. If I paid attention, done my homework, I wouldn't have done it. I think I did this as a spread game. I got the game right. I think I picked Virginia to win, but it was a spread situation, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. So as far as that's all before we get to Clemson, right? On that, is that
Yes.
correct?
Oh, that's last.
So I went 8-3 for the week, and I think you went 8-3 for the week. That,
Yeah, we went 8-3 on the week. We only had two differences on
yeah.
picks, and that was obviously the UCF UNC game and the Duke NC State game. I won one and you won one, so we're still tied.
Yeah, I want to say this while I can because I'm about to lose the spread. So I'm going to enjoy this. I'm 30-9 picking straight up. ACC Cleveland's 29-10. I'm hanging on there, but when we get to the spread discussions, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So, yeah. Oh my goodness. All
Okay,
right.
what we're about to do right now. So let's go ahead. Let's jump on into it.
Yeah.
Our spread games for the last week didn't go well for either of us, but one of us came out ahead, and that was me.
It came.
Um,
Yeah.
I won one of my spreads, missed two, and he missed all three.
All
So,
three. Oh,
so let's talk about it. We'll talk about my first one. I picked Missouri at -9.5, and this one hurt. They were playing South Carolina. They missed a PAT in the first quarter, and had they not missed that PAT, they would have won by 10. I would have covered the spread and gotten it right, but they missed the PAT, and I didn't hit it. So that's my first one.
yeah, that was hurt. And I just talked about Stanford, Virginia. Yeah, I had Stanford at 15.5, but lost by 28. So, yeah, but this is me not doing my homework. All right, you want me to go? I can go next.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, Oregon State, Oregon. I went ahead and took Oregon 35.5 points. I actually did a good study on this, checked everything out, but Oregon could have put it on them more, but they didn't. They didn't pour it on. It was 41-7. So I missed that by a point and a half, and the game looked like I was gonna get it right, but yeah, but I missed it. It counts. If you're putting money on, close doesn't help at all.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, my second one, we already talked about it, was NC State +2.5 to beat Duke. Didn't happen. I don't want to talk about it too long because I will get mad. So moving on to my last spread, my third one. I also mentioned this earlier. I had Miami -9.5 to cover. They did. They handled their business, so I hit on that one.
Yeah, good pick. I'm always scared to do games like that, the Florida Miami stuff. I'm always afraid to do that, take a chance. But I took a chance on Tennessee, 39.5 points at home. I figured since they lost to Georgia, they would be fired up because of the way they lost to Georgia, and they want to prove something and pour it on UAB. Well, they did, but then he put in the second, third string, and I watched it just slip away the second half. So that's so what that does is you get to know what these coaches do. So I'm going to keep an eye on the next ones. And now, so we're going to do the spread, what the records are in the spread. I'm not even going to count the first week because that wasn't videoed. So I'm not even going to play that game. I'm going strictly by what accountable on the video. I am now 3-6, and Cleveland's 4-5. And the best thing I can say is if anybody wants to gamble on these games, just pick opposite me. I was going to pick on Cleve a couple weeks ago and say pick opposite Cleve. However, this has turned around. So I'm going to do the spread again this week. If I were you, I'd do opposite what I do. That's what I would do. So good job, Cleve. Well, you got one right, but it puts you ahead of me. 4-5, and I'm 3-6. Both of us, though, for the pride of this, what we're trying to build here, both of us need to get above 500 on this thing. So I'm pulling for him to do that, and for me to do that. I still want to be ahead of him so I can be better at it. But we'll see. We got to do a lot better. It's no doubt about that. All right. So,
All right, let's move on briefly to some national games of interest. I have a couple I want to talk about. And the first one was one we highlighted last week in one of the episodes, and that was Texas Tech at Utah.
yes.
For the longest time, this game was in a deadlock. Let me see if I got the scores pulled up right here. It was 10-3 at halftime. It was actually 10-3 at the end of the third quarter. But something crazy happened, and what happened was Texas Tech starting quarterback Baron Morton got hurt, and the backup Will Hammond comes into the game, goes 13 for 16 with 2 touchdowns and 169 passing yards, flipped the game on its head, and Texas Tech would win it 34-10.
This is okay. I admit I didn't look at that. I look at the score. See, now that I find this out, this upsets me highly about my team. All right, so I'm not going to go there yet. That really bothers me because we're going to be discussing my team and Cleve's team pretty soon. Okay, yeah, big game, and I just kind of watched. I'm going to throw out. Well, I'm going to put out a couple of them right now, if you don't mind. If you want to say something about it, go ahead. It's just Notre Dame beating Purdue 56-30. I thought that was a good showing, and Michigan beating Nebraska to what you call them, blue bloods. Still, I still respect Nebraska highly, and Michigan finally won a championship this a couple of years. Good game, 30-27, Michigan over Nebraska at Nebraska. Man, I tell you, man, I'd like to see like Nebraska. Like I said before, my first ever favorite national player was Rogers, and Johnny Rogers, I think his name was, and as a kid. And I'd like to see I'd like to see them kind of come back again. All right, you got a couple of them or something you want to put out?
Um, I just got two I want to mention.
Okay,
The first one is Auburn at Oklahoma. Uh,
absolutely.
this was a really good game. Oklahoma comes out on top 24-17. However,
Yeah,
we just found out a few hours ago today, John Mateer, the quarterback, is going to be missing some time undergoing hand surgery. Now, from what I've seen, what just happened there? From what I've seen, he's not expected to miss too much time. They're expecting him to come back sometime during the regular season, but it's still kind of wait and see with him.
last word I got was a month, probably a month.
That's about what I've been seeing.
I hate that. I'm actually pulling for them. Not a SEC fan at all. I mean, I'm not Clemson for all these years, but I wanted OU to be able to go in there and just because I respect Oklahoma highly. 7 national championships in their history, and I don't think people even realize. A lot of people, especially around here, knew that OU had such a history. They were like shocked. I said, Texas is not the blue blood here. OU is the blue blood. They're the ones that, I mean, Texas got all this money, but Oklahoma is got the cachet. They actually won games, won national championships. Last one was 99. That goes to show how great they were up to that point. But all those other years they won the conference but couldn't quite get over the hump, of winning a national championship. So I was pulling for them, and I love Brent Venables, as does Cleve. So, yeah. You want to mention another one? Go ahead and just.
Yeah, another one. It wasn't much of a game, but I do think it was interesting, and that's Indiana walloping
Oh,
Illinois 63-10.
yeah.
Coming into this game, Indiana was actually favored 6.5 at home over Illinois, which I didn't necessarily disagree with. I thought Indiana had a really good chance to win that game, but I don't think anybody expected that game to end up being 63-10. I mean, it wasn't even fair at some points. I mean, it was just they got outmanned and Indiana handled business.
Signetti, is that his name? Signetti?
Kurt Signetti.
He's the best coach in America. I mean, I could say the hottest coach in America. I not hot, like,
Yeah.
good. Well, okay. But yeah, it's just he's man, he's got an attitude, and those players play like he acts. I mean, he's that's something else. Indiana, and they got I think they got Penn State. I think they got Penn State, and they may have Oregon. That's the two big ones they got coming up. Boy, I tell you, Penn State and Oregon,
That's a big one.
A tough game. I mean, Indiana could win those. They really could. So anything else to say about that?
No, I just think
So you're not going to say he's a hot coach?
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to stick my foot in my mouth like that. The last thing I'll say on that, though, is I do agree with you. I think, Kurt Signetti, if you remember, he came over from JMU and took Indiana to the college football playoffs not long after getting to Indiana. So he's going to be a coach to watch in the future if he ever decides to move on from Indiana.
I think he's kicking themselves for real. Virginia Tech hired the wrong guy. And I knew it then when they got that Brent Pry. This guy was available, that he'd have gone to Virginia Tech. Can you imagine what he'd have done at Virginia Tech? They're kicking themselves. They know it. And the reason I know this is because I listened to a writer from Virginia Tech talk about that. So interesting. Wow. They had him right there in the backyard practically. I've been that area where James Madison is, right by the stadium. I think it's Interstate 81, goes right by the stadium. And that's the same interstate goes through Blacksburg. It's not far apart. I think a couple of hours or so, if that. Can you imagine that? There's the coach. There's your coach right there. All right. Oh, and now I did want to mention this. Now we know about South Carolina, Missouri. We talked about that a little bit, but Vanderbilt, 70-21. Of course, Georgia State, but see, Vanderbilt is putting up these numbers now. You would never see Vanderbilt beat a Georgia State. They'd either beat them by a small amount or just lose to them. What a change that's happened there, a cultural change there. They're taking football serious. And I just, when I saw that score, I was like, oh, wow. That's to be respected. Vanderbilt, great city and academic school, and now they're taking football serious. So good for them. So I love to see them start playing Tennessee every year, and it be Vandy start just beating them a few in a row. That would be so funny just to watch that.
Yeah, I'll say this, and then I think we need to move on to the Clemson stuff. But Vanderbilt's schedule, from what I've seen of it, I don't know if it would happen in this day and age of college football, but I don't think I'd be surprised if they finish with 2-3 losses or less. They've kind of got the schedule in place. I don't have it in front of me, but I saw it earlier today. Yeah. They could make some serious waves come, November, that they might be in the college football playoffs pretty comfortably.
Yeah, that'd be really it'd be great if Vandy represented the SEC. That would be so cool, really cool. Them in Oklahoma. That'd be fun. All right. So what we got now, please?
All right. The moment you've all been waiting for. It is time. Syracuse comes in to Death Valley, beats the Tigers 34-21. And honestly, it should have been a worse of a loss than 34-21. There is a lot to say, so strap in. I'm going to start with the effort of the team. That is, I've watched every game, just about almost every single game Clemson's played for the past 10 or 11 years that I've been following college football in Clemson. That is the worst effort that I have ever seen any Clemson team display on a football field. Defense was just maybe 2-3 guys I saw that actually looked like they cared. The rest of them, they were just kind of out there. And, it was just it's sad to watch a team like Clemson, who has all the talent in the world, all these guys, these blue chip recruits out the wazoo, come out there and play like they just don't give a crap. They showed more effort running to shake Fran Brown's hand than they did playing defense and trying to make tackles and stop the run.
That's the fact. You've seen him play the whole game. Run into that coach, man.
That's the fastest I've seen TJ Parker move all year.
I've never seen that. Okay, go ahead, man.
Terrible. And then the offense. It's just from the quarterback situation to the play calling to the way the offensive line's been showing, the way the receivers are starting to come down with a little bit of a drop problem. And there's not just one problem on the offensive side of the ball. Um, it's just it's mind blowing to see that, and it's mind blowing to see the coaching staff and the head coach not see these issues and not address them. It's just it's not good. I mean, we already knew it, but this week kind of solidified that Cade Klubnik's not the guy. He's never going to be the guy. He's just he is what he is. He is what he is. We
He's
are
not,
a 1-3 team.
I mean, not at this level or up. He's not.
No.
Good guy. He's athletic, but he just doesn't have that, that courage, that kind of guy here. Just follow me, guys. I take you on my back, and you can tell they don't trust him. He is the main reason. There was a lot of problems, but a good quarterback can cover some issues and help the players give more effort if they believe in their quarterback. Really, I think the defense could do a little better. I think the offense would do a little better if they believed in Cade, and they don't. And it Garrett Riley, they'll be running the ball, and I didn't write them all down. And then just start passing. It just start. It just Clemson's the only team to stop themselves running this year. Nobody's really stopped them. When they've run the ball, they've run the ball very well. And I don't understand Garrett Riley's approach to that. And I don't understand why the head coach don't say, hey, man, we're going to run this ball. I don't want you to do any pass play. It's mind-boggling to me that stuff is happening. And so, yeah, why not try the second string quarterback? Maybe he'll come in and, well, if he doesn't do well, he's got a good excuse. He's never started a game. We already know what Cade can do. What's wrong with putting this guy in there? Are they afraid we'll lose by more? I mean, what's that just I don't understand it. And bring Denson in. That guy, just run the spread, just run it. This guy can run. And he can throw pretty well, but I know he hasn't been in game situations, but he's got a lot of speed. This guy's, but it just, but there's a lot happening inside the clubhouse, so to speak, and it's been happening the last few years. And I really think they're going to deal with this. Dabo Swinney's not going to leave. He's not going to get fired. He's not going to quit and go to Florida or these other things. He's not. He's got a lot of pride. He don't want to leave Clemson like this. He wants his legacy to stay like this. And I believe if he puts his mind to it and is willing to make some changes, he will be successful again. I really do. In this time, I really do. And I think I saw him do the post game was totally different than what I've ever seen Dabo Swinney. I think the realization hit him, and he kind of lost the team. And I think it shook him up. He thought this past week, when he was getting on the fans and all this stuff, and go ahead, count against us, all this stuff, bet against us, that he thought that would rally the troops, but he found out that his players aren't responding. So this week they had a players-only meeting with head coach Dabo Swinney. First time that's ever happened. No position coach was in there, and supposedly the players were grateful for it and responded well in that way. Nobody said they're leaving it yet or anything. Of course, the best response is to show it on the field when they go to North Carolina. We can't really tell. But I think that was an interesting thing I've never heard him do before. no coaches in there but him. And the players were really grateful that they were able to talk to the head coach directly like that. So, you got anything else on that? No, you got a lot. I know you're going to go on specific stuff.
Yeah. I did see, we did obviously we heard about the players only meeting.
Yeah.
It just, this is, like you said, this is the first time, I think, under the Dabo Sweeney coaching staff and under his time here at Clemson, I believe this is genuinely the first time he's lost the locker room. And I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that. That was outside of not showing effort last Saturday. That was a team you could tell had no spark. They didn't have any belief in their coaching staff, their position coaches, their quarterback, their head coach. They didn't believe they could win. I honestly believe that's what it was. I don't think that team knew that they could win. I didn't think they could win.
Well,
And that obviously translated on the field.
if players playing football, they're told if you don't play like you should, we're going to replace you with the guy next man up. But when they see that the quarterback is being treated totally different than the other players, when they can see that he's not getting, I think they got the film. The guys know the routes. The defense sees what's happening. And so to them, they lose their confidence in the coaches too, because they're still keeping them in there and they don't believe they have any chance to win with Cade at this point at quarterback. So there's a lot going on there. And I just don't understand why you wouldn't put a guy in there and just give him a series or two, see what happens, So, yeah, a lot going on. 1-3. 1-3. Wow.
1-3 for the first time since Dabo Sweeney's been head coach at Clemson. I want to dive a little bit into some specific things that I noticed while watching the game. I didn't have to rewatch it because I somehow got to a place mentally during the game. I realized, we weren't going to win. I realized we are what we are. I just started just analyzing it like I was watching film. One thing I want to talk about, there's a lot we can say about Cade, and this is the last thing I want to say about Cade. I've never in quite some time seen a quarterback miss so many wide open receivers in my time watching football. I've seen some things, but there are things you can see just watching on TV, not even watching like film angles where you can see the whole field. You can see just watching on an ESPN broadcast that people are about to get open or people are open, and he's just not hitting them. His head is staying rigid on one person, and if he does look off, it's too late. And most of the time when he sees an open receiver, he stares at them for so long, it gives DBs and linebackers time to react and break up the pass or pick the ball off. We saw that a bunch. Namely, one time it was fourth downs, like 4th and 2, 4th and 1. He had Antonio Williams come wide open on a drag route. And instead of hitting him when he saw him, he looked at him for a good 2 or 3 seconds. The cornerback comes down from his zone, hits Antonio Williams, and causes a pass breakup. So that's just mentally his processing. I don't even know if it's a confidence issue anymore. I think it is just a processing issue for him because he's just not reading anything. He's just not processing. And
He's
that's
not smart at all.
no, and because you remember, some of the days, towards the end of Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm not trying to compare anybody because there is no other Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence, but they were good quarterbacks, and you could see them, if they recognized something at the line, you could see them stop everything, check over to see if they want to change the call, or sometimes just change the call themselves. And, that's how they read defenses, and it worked. Cade Klubnik showed a little bit of that last year, some kind of early in the year when Clemson was their hottest, but then all of a sudden he quit doing that, and now it's just he's not processing anything. So I think there's a lot we could say about Cade, but I'll leave it at that. Another thing.
To defend him, and he couldn't react to it. Before you go on next, and this is the last thing I want to say, players An insider made this statement that the players, when DJ Uyunglele was there, even though he couldn't read, like he had trouble with that, we know all the trouble he had. The players still loved him and respected him as a leader, and they played hard for him. They did, offense and defense. If you look back now, you realize how in the world, you see what happened with Florida State when he went there, but he had won the room over at Clemson, and they were playing hard for him. You can tell that Cade does not have that leadership, and they don't love him this like the players loved DJ. And the reason they love you is you care for him, and you gain the respect, and as a leader, and they just don't look at Cade that way. So their effort's not going to be there like it was a few years ago with DJ. All right, I'm done. You go ahead, and you've done a lot of study on this. Go ahead.
Another thing I want to talk about, I'm trying to hit every position group here because there's things to talk about in all of them. Next up, I want to talk about the running back situation. Now, this is not a knock on Randall as much as it is a knock on the coaching staff, and that is you have three really good running backs behind him, and David Eziamume, Gideon Davidson, and Keith Adams, and yet there's not a lot of subbing in and subbing out until Adam Randall is absolutely gassed out and physically can't go hard anymore. And you kind of could see that fatigue start creeping in with him later in the game, and I think it was kind of critical in the fumble that he had. He's just tired because he's most of the time the only running back on the field. And when you have good depth there, you've got three guys sitting behind him that would start on just about any other team in America. You need to play those guys, or else you're going to lose them, and you're just absolutely going to wear down your feature back. There were times I thought they could have given the ball to Ezia Mume in some spots. They could have given it to Davidson, Keith Adams, but they kept Randall in, which I don't understand. I haven't heard anything about them having a set apart reason for that, but I just don't understand why you're not subbing in more, trying to keep, your players' legs as fresh as possible. Keep them, good to go instead of just wearing them down. So that's my biggest gripe with the running back situation, other than them not running the ball when they're supposed to. I just think, keep running the ball, but keep switching in and out. Keep your guys fresh. Do you have anything to say on the running backs?
I do know that when they have come in, they pass the ball. 1st and 10, and they have – I've noticed that. And instead of hand the ball off, even though running has been working, then when he's gone out and they come in, they start passing the ball. Give the guys a chance, see what they could do, So that's what I noticed a little bit when they did come in. He starts throwing the ball. All right, go ahead.
The receivers. The receivers are getting open. I've looked at film.
Yeah.
I've seen it near the end. The receiver, there is not really – the only issue I have with the receivers is we're having a kind of a drop issue that's starting to crop up. Now, are these the easiest catches in the world that I've seen them drop? No. But should they be caught by a Division I receiver their caliber? Yes. I don't want to knock them too hard, but I am going to knock them. You got to catch these balls. You got to help out your struggling quarterback. But as far as getting open, being able in positions to make plays down the field, they are getting there. But like we said, QB's just not seeing it, and he's not doing what he's supposed to. Another thing I want to talk about the receivers is Tristan Smith, number 3.
Yep.
He is one of 3 players, maybe one of 2, that I saw that it looked like it meant something to him. He came in a couple snaps, and he made a big, about 20-something yard catch. And you could tell just by the way he ran the ball after he caught it, it meant that he was fighting for yards, breaking dudes off, and then you don't hardly see any more of them. It's just like, well, you bragged the whole offseason about having such depth at wide receiver, but you don't play anybody outside of the same 4 guys in rotation. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It's not good. It's just not good. It's not good coaching responsibility. I don't know who's responsible. Usually it is position coaches responsible for getting players in and out in certain packages. Go ahead.
I, I looked into that, and nobody's actually asked Dabo that question, and they're planning to ask him next time. For some reason, I don't know why they haven't, because I was doing some research on that, and there are a lot of people wondering: is it the position coaches or the head coach, or they come up consensus? What's that? Each play, you know, that's going to be an interesting answer, and I wonder how Dabo's going to answer that. I really do. Because if it's these position coaches only making these, then Tyler Grisham needs to go if he's making it. And my man CJ, love this guy. He needs to go too if he's making these decisions on these running backs. But I'm anxious to hear what that answer will be. They plan to ask it on next time that they get together. So I hope they do.
It's across the board too, offense and the defense. There are just some questionable decision makings that I've seen just from who's in on certain personnel. But that's just about all I have for the wide receivers. Just clean up the drop issue, and for the love of God, play Tristan Smith. Give him some run. I mean,
Yeah.
he wants to be here, and he's
Oh,
shown that he wants to be here. So play him.
the train showing us how it's done.
Mhm. Yeah,
There,
we'll get into Will Helt in just a minute. I've got some things to say about
yeah,
that.
yeah, go ahead.
Next up, we'll talk briefly on the offensive line. A lot of their issues, again, it feels like we're pinning a lot on Cade, but it's true. Cade is running out of clean pockets. He's got time back there. He's just rolling out, rolling into pressure. He's not feeling the pressure, and it's causing some issues. But they have had some hiccups a lot in these early games, letting free runners come at Cade, not picking up, not correctly identifying blitzes, and it's caused some holes in the protection. But that's going to get cleaned up. I've got a lot of confidence in Matt Luke. I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best, straight up position coach on the staff. So I think it's going to get corrected fairly shortly. Next up, there's not much I can say about the tight ends because we don't freaking use them enough. We've got studs there in Olsen, Pat Henry, Christian Bentoncourt, and Josh Sapp, but we hardly using them. And somebody I think we really need to use more is number 87, Christian Bentoncourt. Anytime he's caught the ball, he's made stuff happen. He's had very big catches. He's good in the catch and run. He's good. He's a solid pass blocker from what I've seen. So we need to give him some more run. But there's, again, like I said, not a lot I can say about him because you don't see them get utilized that much. But yeah, so anyways, that's, the offense. And I guess the offense as a whole, it's the coaching staff, like we've said, is going to have to make some really tough decisions as far as you kind of got to see that number 2 is not going to be your guy. I think if I was head coach, me personally, if I'm looking at 1 and 3, the national championship and the playoffs are out of the question, barring some wild things happening in the ACC. You got to see what you got because, I mean, you're losing 75% of your team next year guaranteed to the draft, and that's not counting what you could lose in the portal depending on how you perform the rest of the year. So I would start, get some of these younger guys, Vizina, Davidson, Denson, that's just on the offense. Give these guys runs, see what they've got, see if you can plan around them for the future. So they're going to have to figure something out. And Garrett Riley is – I don't know what's happening there. Garrett Riley's going to have to understand that he's coaching for his life, and I still don't think that's clicked. I think we've said he's going to figure that out, but it's not. It hasn't clicked yet.
He's already gone, and
He
my
is.
understanding is he kind of knows it. That's what I'm hearing, for real.
Yeah, so there's that. Let's transition over to the defensive side of the ball. Let's start. We'll start in the secondary, cornerbacks and safeties. Um, there's a lot of concern for me personally on those cornerback situation. Ashton Hampton has, for some reason, from what he was last year to this year, just fallen off a cliff. He's just committing unnecessary penalties. He's just getting flat out burnt in coverage. It's not good over there. Avion Terrell, he's been solid this year, but I don't think he's been that high level top 3 cornerback in college football they were really anticipating him to be. Um, that's really, that's all I can say about the cornerbacks. The safeties, they've been hurt most of the year, with what's his name?
Barnes.
Gosh, Khalil Barnes. He got hurt. He just came back. He looked pretty solid in the Syracuse game. Ronan Hannafin has done a good job stepping up into that kind of rover role, playing that position. Kylan Griffin and the younger guys, they've looked solid. They've been caught flat-footed a few times, but it's nothing I can really knock them for. It's just growing pains for young players that haven't seen a lot of run. Next up, the linebackers. This is kind of what I've been saying since the start of the season, and that's Wade Woodaz. He is a really good player. He's got a lot of talent, but he is not the linebacker that they're trying to utilize him as. And what I mean by that is, like I said last week, that kind of quarterback spy, that kind of roving guy sitting in the middle. He doesn't quite have that athleticism to go sideline to sideline and make some of these plays that he needs to, and he's missing a lot of tackles, which can be said for the whole defense. But one guy that really does stick out specifically is Wade Woodaz. People are bouncing off him, and he's not really wrapping up, and that's causing some issues. Now we flip the coin to Sammy Brown. Sammy Brown has been a bright spot on this defense. He has been what we expected him to be. He's playing his role very well. Pass coverage, run stopping, blowing up the run. He's what was advertised. I don't have anything negative really to say about Sammy. And now this is probably I think this and QB are probably the biggest disappointment for us this year, and that's defensive line. You've got 2 first-round talents in Peter Woods and TJ Parker, both projected as top 10 overall picks, and they haven't done anything. They haven't been as advertised. And it's kind of, where they at, which I'll say this, and I will get into this in a minute. There's been a lot, more this year than I've ever seen it. There's been a lot of subbing in and subbing out on the defensive line. Very seldomly have I seen the same group of 4 or group of 3 actually in for, that have stayed in for a whole drive. Now, I understand that, guys got to come in, come out because it's a physical position. But there have been times this year where it's almost seemed like a different front 4 every play. You've got the ends coming in and out of the game. You've got the nose guards, the defensive tackles coming in and out. And it's kind of like it doesn't feel like they're able to establish a game rhythm because they're getting subbed in and out so much. Like, there's some plays you'll see the front 4 be a combination of Woods, Parker, and maybe like Stephylon Green. And then the next play, you see Parker go out and you see like Cade Denhoff come in and you see Vic Burley come in for a defensive tackle. And it's like, what's going on here? There's no rhythm being established in that front 4. Do I think that's a reason why there's been kind of a lack of production from that area? Maybe, probably. I don't quite understand, and this goes back to what we just talked about with the position coaches and the personnel changes. Who's making these decisions? Who's telling these guys to come in and out of the game? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But when they have been in the game, the people I mentioned, they just haven't been good. They've been very lackluster. I think, maybe they've done their job in the fact of containing some things, making things not as bad as they could have been. But I don't think they've been the game wreckers that we thought, except for one guy, and that's number 13, Will Help. Again, he's a transfer that actually looks like he wants to be out there on the football field. He's been a game wrecker. He's been causing havoc on that defensive end. The effort he puts in, he's a stud. He's a guy. He's been really the bright spot of that front 7 and probably the defense as a whole. And speaking of defensive transfers, another guy, number 35, Jeremiah Alexander. Where's he been? Where's he at? I mean, you bring this guy in and you talk the whole offseason about how much effort he puts in practice, how he's miles above everybody else as far as, like I said, putting in effort, grinding day in and day out. But yet that's not resulting in playing time. But that's something that, would result in playing time for other guys, like Dabo said, like when he sat Gideon Davidson week 1 because he missed a blocking assignment. That didn't make sense at the time, but now you're saying that this guy, Jeremiah Alexander, is doing everything right, putting in all the effort, knows the playbook, but he's not getting any run. So, what's the deal there? Now, I understand that Clemson now, under Tom Allen, his scheme primarily is a 4-2-5, and that's four down linemen, two linebackers, and then five in the secondary. I get you're only going to have two linebackers on the field, but here's my thing. If you're just going to switch in your D line every play, switch your linebackers out too. I mean, give Brown some rest. You've got guys like Alexander, like I said. You've got Kobe McLeod behind them, Cuba Taylor. Just give them some play. You're at a point now where obviously you're going to play to win week in and week out, but you've got to start thinking about taking stock. You've got to see what you've got behind them because 1-3 is just not going to cut it. So we can go back, we can look at film all we want because, I just listed off a bunch of things wrong with the team. But until this coaching staff and until these players are going to put in the effort, I wouldn't expect to win a lot of games this year. That's just that.
Yeah. First of all, I commend you on how thorough you are on that. Good job. I'm a little more lazy as I gotten older with this. I do more listening to the ones who are experts, supposedly, who follow Clemson closely. I listen to a lot of Clemson radio throughout the day, and also other methods. And I heard that Kobe McLeod graded really well in a linebacker. He was doing very well. Some situations and I know I was upset at times. I see Denoff out there and some of these others. The problem is they're saying is that Parker and them are getting blocked out. That even Peter Woods is getting blocked out. It's like the effort's not there, so they're trying to get guys in there who care, and so some of that is going on, which is that's you don't know what to say about that. It seemed like there'd be some pride out there. And this NIL thing, I've heard people calling this the NIL's problem. Well, the NIL is not bothering other teams; they're winning. But it's just interesting, and I'm not expert to know what's going on, but I think it took Coach Sweeney a while to see this. I think he had a lot of people around him who's going to go there and tell him, the way you're doing it's not working when he's won 2 national championships. But see, it's been happening the last few years. It's been going down more and more. And either people don't have the courage because their jobs depend on him to tell him, or they are telling him he's just not listening. But I think this past week, I think something happened with him, and for him to call a team-only meeting with him goes to show also he's put all his coaches on notice too, and there's some things going on. And I think Allen, he deserves a break because they've had issues with it's effort issues before he even came along. This was already happening. I think Allen's going to do well, and I think Luke's going to do well. There's stuff happening there on offensive line, but he's got 6 new guys coming in that's more his body types. And so there's some good things coming along, but I think there's going to be at least half the coaches are going to be gone at the end of the season. I think so. Some things I'm kind of hearing. They're kind of suggesting, or what do you call it, just putting it out there, not actually saying it, but kind of saying it without being officially saying it, and they kind of leaning that way. And I expect that to happen, but the only thing I would have thought that might happen is if the coaches say, I'm just going to leave now because I know, but they'd be stupid to do that. I thought that through. That's stupid because then you're walking away from the money. So that's kind of crazy. So at the end of the season, and we're going to see a big change there. And the way that he does it in the NIL and all this stuff and transfers, that's going to change too. So it took rock bottom, but A lot of times somebody's very successful like that can't see it happening. You know, they're so used to their style and the way they're doing it's worked. They can't see it, until it starts crumbling like that. So anyway, you did a great job. I got to commend you of taking this, really going in there like that and doing every position. And like I said, I haven't looked at film, looked at really, it's just listening on the radio, just listening. And I've been so teed off and about this. I just didn't even want to see. I didn't want to see it again. So I just listen. All right, I know we're run out of time probably.
You're all good. There's just two things I want to bring up, and then we'll call it an episode. I just mentioned a second ago. Tom Allen, his scheme is a 4-2-5. Like I said, 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 in the secondary. One thing I've seen a lot that's happening with our defense is, if you've noticed when you've watched the games, you've seen them kind of abuse that inside passing, hitting a lot of quick slants, hitting a lot of stuff across the field. The problem with a 4-2-5 is when you only have 2 linebackers, they're covering sideline to sideline in a good chunk of your coverage packages. You're going to have to cover sideline to sideline. Now, Brown can do it, but like I've said, I have some concerns about what as athleticism, and all that. That's where some of my thing comes in. And like I said, that could be a problem, but it's Allen's first year. Give him some time. Let that scheme cook a little bit. Like Dabo likes to say, put that scheme in the crock pot for a little bit. And then things are going to look better on that side of the ball, as long as the defense puts in effort. The last thing I want to say, you can't blame NIL for this year as far as your talent, because Clemson has been more talented than every team they've played and every team they're going to play. They're probably, if you looked at them on paper, and that's what people were doing in the offseason, you see that team on paper, you see that depth chart, and that's the most talented team in America. That's better than anybody. But so you can't say that's the NIL's fault this year. I think the only way you can say that this could be an NIL thing is what you said, and I agree with it. There's no threat to their job, right? There's no next man up thought. So like, hey, there might not be anybody that's better than me right now this year, but come this offseason, they could go out and grab a guy, come take my job, or at least make me compete for it, make me work for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's none of that. So that's the only thing that I could say the NIL would impact this year. But next year, even before all this happened, I was strongly going to say you're going to have to use the portal. Because, I mean, you've got a really good freshman class coming in, don't get me wrong, but you can't. In this day and age of college football, you got to have experience. Experience goes a long way. And so you kind of next year, if you wanted to be a serious football team and compete late into November, December, January, you were going to have to use the portal anyway. So I think this just really put the nails in the coffin for that. But anyways, with that being said, we've already been going for a while. That's kind of our thoughts, mostly my thoughts on the whole Clemson situation. There's a long ways to go. Hopefully, you're right about a lot of what you've heard, and I hope a lot of your sources are true as far as, changes that could be coming or changes that for sure are coming.
I'm pretty sure.
Hopefully that's right. Like you said, sometimes it does take hitting rock bottom to start making progress. So we'll see. We still have a long season ahead of us. We've still got 8 games left. So let's see what we do these last 8 games. My hopes aren't too high right now, but I'm still going to tune in every week and watch them. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.
Goodbye, y'all.